What if I told you that I know something critical about reversing cancer? Something that's connected to a principle that Royal Rife inadvertently tapped into and leveraged with his amazing healing machine, which cured several people of terminal cancer at the Scripps Institute in La Jolla, California in 1934. And what if I told you that this hidden principle has to do with the last thing you would probably ever think is in charge of your health: geometry? Yes, believe it or not, everything in this universe that's alive is alive because of a specific geometry, one that has been disrupted in the oxygen and hydrogen atoms within the water inside cancerous cells. And there are specific people on the planet, which I refer to as naturally gifted or self-realized energy healers, who have the ability to alter the geometry that underpins human biology, allowing for the potential to reverse cancer. Because as has been proven in many experiments, the geometries present in water are altered by intention. Now, a note, if you've landed here on this page, it's probably safe to say that you've been through some extremely challenging times in relation to cancer. The last thing you need is to be given false hope, which is why the angels who I communicate with have asked me to be very clear on something with you. So the divine wants you to experience joy and excitement about the future again, and their message is that the harm caused by cancer can be mitigated, but they don't want you to forgo or stop conventional cancer treatment. That being said, please keep on listening for a new perspective on cancer that I think you'll find extremely helpful. Thanks to my connection to the angelic realm, I know the truth about how and why cancer happens, which means I may be able to help you heal the root cause. My name is Amanda Arcadia. I'm a mom to a 5-year-old boy, as well as a naturally gifted or self-realized energy healer and a channel for the angelic realm. With your permission, I'd like to tell you a story that I think will bring you a great deal of hope. In 2020, I got to talking with a woman named Karen, who lives in Minnesota in the United States. Karen is a breast cancer survivor. She told me that even though she had had a double mastectomy, she was worried that her cancer was coming back because her latest blood work showed that her tumor marker levels were rising into the danger zone. Her doctor was concerned, and pending her next blood work results, was about to recommend further testing. I felt strongly that I could help Karen because the angels had been prompting me to start working with cancer for a couple of years by this time. Karen and I completed 3 remote energy healing sessions together, with me guiding her on understanding what caused her cancer, and here's what happened next. Karen went to the hospital for her blood work. 2 days later, she received her results and immediately sent me an elated message. Her tumor marker levels had dropped back into the normal zone, she informed me. Today, she is not even being followed by her doctor anymore. She's considered completely cancer-free and not at risk of recurrence. How could this have happened? So, it all comes down to, believe it or not, water. I didn't consciously understand this at the time that I worked with Karen because the angels hadn't filled me in on the details yet, but what I now know is that through the 3 sessions I did with Karen, I altered the geometry that determines the electron configuration of the hydrogen atoms inside the water in her cells, helping her to restructure the water in her remaining breast tissue. As it turns out, loss of proper structuring in the water in your cells is a hallmark of cancer, hence the rising tumor marker levels that Karen was experiencing. By the way, this is the subject of an absolutely amazing book by Dr. Thomas Cowan. It's called Cancer and the New Biology of Water, and I strongly recommend that you read it because it is life-changing. Now, here's where the really exciting information lies, in my opinion. Even the water destructuring that we find with cancer is just the effect of an underlying issue. And it's an issue that can be addressed by somebody who knows how to do it and who has these natural healing abilities and who also has the right confidence in his or her abilities. That's important too. So what I've been taught by the angels is that the destructured water found in cancerous cells, leading to the condition we know as cancer, is actually a symptom of a deeper but entirely fixable, non-physical problem, an energetic problem, one that alters the geometry of the hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms in the water in your cells. This problem has to do with the way that we are conditioned by society to see ourselves as being somehow not good enough, sinful, or undeserving. It has to do with the fracturing of our consciousness that occurs as a result of living in a culture that is largely cut off in awareness from the reality of spirit. Here's what Dr. Cowan's book helped me to realize. When an emotionally traumatic event happens to us, subconsciously resonating with childhood pain that made us take on the belief that there's something wrong with us, the water in the cells of the organ that correlates with the theme of that childhood pain changes form. It becomes destructured. And following on that, here's what the angels help me to understand. Structured water is water whose hydrogen atoms present with a specific geometry or electron configuration, one that reflects the divine relationship or ratio known as phi. Phi, aka the golden ratio or the golden mean, is the energetic template for all life. Phi is found throughout nature, and simply put, it's what keeps living things, including you and me, alive. It's what pulls in the code for how a cell or a sunflower should take form, from what is often referred to as the ether or the quantum field. So when the hydrogen atoms present in the water molecules in the cells of an organ lose their phi geometry, you might be able to guess what happens. This altered geometry cuts the cells off from the life force energy that is provided via the ether, forcing the cells to switch into survival mode and leading to the formation of what we know of, what we call cancer tumors. Cancerous cells are just normal cells that have lost their connection to the ether and that thus believe they need to draw on the energy and resources of the body and food you eat, rather than their natural source of negentropic energy from the ether. As a result, they shift into a new mode of metabolism that causes harm to the rest of the body. And this is why cancer makes us sick and can actually kill us. The emotionally traumatic event that happens to you, or rather your interpretation of the event in relation to your self-concept, how you see yourself, is what causes the organic phi geometry that's structuring the water in your cells to shift away from the ideal ratio that pulls life force into the water of your cells from the ether. This is what truly causes cells to become cancerous, which brings us back to Royal Rife's successful treatment of people in 1934. Royal Rife initially thought it was cancer bacteria that were responsible for causing cancer, but the angels tell me that he was incorrect. To my knowledge, while he was clearly a genius, Royal Rife didn't know anything about structured water, traumatic emotional events, or the ether as the source of life force. Because of what he observed in his experiments, he thought the so-called cancer bacteria that he had observed under his amazing microscope, which he built himself, and that's why I say he's a genius, were somehow causing cancer. And he figured out that by identifying the resonant frequencies of these bacteria and feeding these frequencies into their petri dish using his beam ray machine, the microorganisms would explode or become inert. But while he was able to verify his frequency theory on the bacteria in petri dishes, he wouldn't have been able to verify that this is what was happening inside the bodies of the patients he treated. What the angels have told me is that he exploded or rendered inert the microorganisms in the petri dishes during his experiments, but in the human bodies that he used his machine on, what was happening was that the geometry of the water molecules in the cancerous cells was shifting back to the correct golden ratio proportions. Simply put, what Rife's beam ray machine was doing was restoring the golden ratio within the ether vortexes that form the hydrogen and oxygen atoms, aka the water molecules, in the cells of the cancer-stricken patients he used it on. When this happened, the pH or oxygen tension in the cells changed. This would have caused the bacteria that appeared to be contributing to the cancer to change into a different form, although of course Rife couldn't actually see this happening inside the bodies of people he was treating with his device. That being said, here is the big clue that tells us energy healing from someone who has been gifted with the ability to manipulate energy, such as myself, can possibly heal the root cause of cancer. pH, or oxygen tension, correlates directly with the emergence of the golden ratio in the water molecules. And we know that naturally gifted healers can affect the pH of water. That's been proven, and in fact, there's a place you can go to in California to have your abilities tested. The book Water Codes by Carly Muday, PhD, discusses research conducted by Dr. Bernard Grad at McGill University in Montreal, which showed that chemical analysis of the water treated by healers demonstrated a shift in atomic bond angle and surface tension, both indications of structural changes in the molecular formation of the water. There have been several other researchers who have noted this fact in their work as well. And then there is the work of Dr. Emoto and other water researchers, which has demonstrated that water responds to human intention. I lost 2 of my beloved grandparents unnecessarily early to cancer, and now I'm dedicated my life to correcting this so that no one else needs to leave behind loved ones, especially children, who need them. I hope you'll join me in making this a problem that no longer plagues the planet by choosing to learn about the true nature of cancer and perhaps even work with me personally.